Presenting to you our finalists in the mixed 3 metre Synchro Springboard final. We wish them all the best for competition. Representing Ukraine, Maxim Dolgov and Victoria Keza. Representing Mexico, Romel Pacheco and Dolores Hernandez. Representing Canada, Jennifer Abel and Francois Imbo Delac. And representing China, He Zi and Chen Asen. So up first we have the team from the Ukraine who will be performing a 401B, degree of difficulty 2. Judges' scores for execution, 7.5, 7, 8.5, 7.5. For synchronization, 8, 7.5, 8, 8, 8. The team representing Mexico will be performing a 101B, degree of difficulty 2. Judges' scores for execution, 9, 8, 8.5, 8. For synchronization, 8.5, 8, 8, 9, 9. Next up, the team representing Canada will be performing a 201B, degree of difficulty 2. Judges' scores for execution, 8, 8.5, 8, 8. For synchronization, 9, 9, 9, 8.5, 9. Next up, the team representing China will be performing a 103B, degree of difficulty 2. Judges' scores for execution, 8.5, 9, 8, 8.5. For synchronization, 9, 8.5, 8.5, 9, 8.5. So 1 round of competition through, 5 rounds in total here in our mixed 3 metre Synchro Springboard. And moving on to round number 2. The divers representing Ukraine will be performing a 301B, degree of difficulty 2. Judges' scores for execution, 8, 7.5, 8.5, 9. For synchronization, 9.5, 8.5, 9, 9, 8. Next on the boards, the divers representing Mexico will be performing a 301B, degree of difficulty 2. Judges' scores for execution, 8.5, 8, 8.5, 8. For synchronization, 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, 8. Next up, the divers representing Canada will be performing a 301B, degree of difficulty 2. Judges' scores for execution, 7.5, 8.5, 8.5, 8.5. For synchronization, 8.5, 9, 9, 9, 8.5. The divers representing China performing a 201, 301B, degree of difficulty 2. Judges' scores for execution, 9, 9.5, 9, 9. For synchronization, 9, 9, 8.5, 8.5, 8.5. So a lovely back and reverse dive there by the Chinese pairing. Sees them just in front after 2 rounds of competition of Canada and Mexico. We move our attention now to round number 3. The divers representing Ukraine, performing a 5-1, 5-2B, degree of difficulty 3. Judges' scores for execution, 7.5, 7, 8, 8. For synchronization, 7.5, 7.5, 8, 8, 8. Up next, the divers representing Mexico will be performing a 5-1, 5-2B, degree of difficulty 3. Judges' scores for execution, 7, 8, 6.5, 6.5. For synchronization, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 8, 7.5. Next up, the divers representing Canada will be performing a 405B. Degree of difficulty, 3. Judges' scores for execution, 7.5, 7, 8, 8. For synchronization, 8, 8, 8, 8.5, 8. The divers representing China will be performing a 405B. Degree of difficulty, 3. Judges' scores for execution, 8.5, 8.5, 8, 8. For synchronization, 9, 8.5, 8.5, 8, 8.5. So after 3 rounds of competition, still China narrowly in front ahead of Canada, Ukraine and Mexico. Just 2 rounds now remaining in our final of the mixed 3-metre Synchro Springboard. Up next, round number 4. Our first divers there representing Ukraine will be performing a 205B. Degree of difficulty, 3. Judges' scores for execution, 7, 6.5, 6, 6.5. For synchronization, 8, 7.5, 7.5, 7, 7. Divers representing Mexico will be performing a 205B. Degree of difficulty, 3. Judges' scores for execution, 8.5, 8, 7.5, 7.5. For synchronization, 8, 7.5, 7, 7.5, 7.5. Team representing Canada will be performing a 107B. Degree of difficulty, 3.1. Judges' scores for execution, 8, 8, 8.5, 8. For synchronization, 9.5, 9, 9, 9, 9. Next on the boards, the team representing China will be performing a 5-1-5-2-B. Degree of difficulty, 3. Judges' scores for execution, 9, 8.5, 8.5, 8.5. For synchronization, a 9, 8.5, 9, 8.5, and 9.5. 4 rounds of competition down, just the 5th and final round remaining. Still China just narrowly in front of Canada. Really nice battle there into this final round. Also tight battle now for bronze medal at the moment between Mexico and Ukraine as we turn our attention to this 5th and final round here of the mixed 3-meter synchronized springboard final. Will be the team from the Ukraine to perform a 107B. Degree of difficulty, 3.1. Judges' scores for execution, 7, 7, 8.5, 8.5. For synchronization, 8, 8, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5. Next up, the team representing Mexico will be performing a 405B, degree of difficulty, 3. Judges' scores for execution, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7. For synchronization, 8, 7.5, 7, 7.5, 8. Divers representing Canada, forming a 5-1-5-4-B. Degree of difficulty, 3.4. Judges' scores for execution, 5, 4.5, 7.5, 8. Synchronization, 7.5, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7. And the divers representing China will be performing a 205B. Degree of difficulty, 3. Judges' scores for execution, 8, 8, 8.5, 8.5. For synchronization, a 9.5, 9.5, 9, 9, 10. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our mixed 3-metre synchro springboard final. And a big congratulations there to China, who will take the gold medal on 338.4, ahead of Canada, 321.18. Very tight for bronze there. Ukraine just taking it by less than a point, 303.21. Really came down to that final round. So great to see. Nice treat there. Mixed 3-metre synchro springboard. Looking forward to that mixed